In this video we're going to be investigating the Riverside Church in Morningside Heights, Manhattan, New York. We'll also touch on Grant's tomb over here, and we'll be getting into some of the Columbia University campus area. So let's take a look at this church. So we're looking at the Riverside Church, an interdenominational that sort of weaves in with the backstory. The church was conceived by philanthropist, businessman, and Baptist John D. Rockefeller Jr. in conjunction with Baptist minister Harry Emerson Fosdick. And this whole story, I've kind of dug into it a little bit, and of course, some suspicious robber baron-esque names here. So, we question the narrative on this channel, and that's what we're doing here. And I'll put the link to this Wikipedia page in the description. It's definitely worth a look and get into this whole narrative here on how it came to be. We have the construction period lasting from 1927 to 1930, so that's a 3-year period to build the structure. Of course, it's hailed as a modern building with an older exterior, which explains the speed at which it went up. It also underwent a fire. A quite famous fire, we're told, apparently happened as a result of all the wooden scaffolding, and it was actually the reason for the law in New York changing from from wood to steel scaffolding. So a bit of backstory there as well. This is the only shot I could find before the church was built. This is supposedly 1897. We have Grant's tomb back here, and we have, of course, vanilla skies in a lot of these old photos. I'm starting to think more and more when you see these vanilla skies, the scrubbed out skies, and a lot of people have done analysis on it, showing the scrub marks. I think part of the reasoning for that could be to align the timeline, historical narrative. Some buildings that weren't supposed to be there get scrubbed out of the city skylines, among other reasons, but that's just another little theory I was kind of pondering on as well. So we're looking at some modern day shots now of the church cathedral. So interdenominational, very liberal minded attitude that goes with this. Sort of an open arms to all denominations is how they paint it out to be. But again, like I said, we have some suspicious characters involved with the creation of this church, so my hunch is that this is older than they're telling us, and I didn't find much evidence of construction, of course, right? You'd think in 1930, shutter speed should be faster at that point. We should see this the celebration of the construction of this cathedral. I would suspect would have and should have been the story of the time, no question in my mind. So that's all just suspiciously glossed over. And then you also get some of these early photographs in that black and white look, and they just conveniently are dated right at the beginning of that time period. Some right around 1930. This one, I don't have a date for it, but I would suspect it's close to there. Also, the church not looking like it's freshly built, looking like it's a part of the skyline area, and has been for quite some time. We have some interior shots and some exterior shots. So this church having the pipe organ, also having a quite extensive bell tower, Carillon bell tower. And here's a link. So I found this video, and the link will be in the description. And it's a walkthrough of the bell tower. It goes up 20 stories, and then he walks further from that point on. And they get into the immense structure that was needed for all these bells to hang from there. Many tons. 20-ton bell, I think, is the biggest. The bell, and it may be the biggest in the world. I do believe that they do mention that. So I definitely recommend checking this out. I mean, it's some interesting visuals for sure. And of course told in the perspective of the historical timeline. Get the usual suspects get thrown in there. You get into the whole how these folks here were so beneficial to the funding of education. So that works for us, doesn't it? And we get a few shots of the interior. And remember, we're expected to believe 3 years, right, for all this to have gone together. So, and like I said, that's including a fire that halted the project for quite some time. Got the massive doors going on here, the giant doors. Some interesting parts of the narrative too. You see these statues on the exterior. Let's see here. So I found this as well, the top 10 secrets of New York City's Riverside Church. A few interesting tidbits in here. I'll see if I can just scroll to them. Tallest church in America. At the time was the tallest church in the world, we are told. Used to be a bowling alley in the basement. Interesting. So we're going down. They had to dig. Again, remember the 3-year timeline. Largest and heaviest tuned bell ever made. Let's keep going here. Their stained glass came from a cathedral in Europe, of course, just like the Gilded Age mansions. We're importing all sorts of stuff from Europe. They talk about the organ in here. Of course, these old buildings all outfitted with the pipe organs related to some cymatic, what a lot of people suspect is cymatic healing. That's part of the older civilization, the old world, if you believe in that sort of thing. Okay, Riverside Church includes numerous statues of scientists. So there's a departure here now from what your typical saints and all that, although they do have them. And they get into the scientists of the time. Darwin's even in there. So all these names here, and these are the usual suspects. If you're familiar with the rewritten historical narrative and timeline, we're looking at the usual suspects here. Even Einstein apparently was carved into that place. Also other characters, Confucius, Moses, Hegel. Anyone know about the Hegelian dialectic? Where we get that from? Dante. Like this is supposed to be a church, right? So anyway, I'll put the link to this in the description. We'll get back to the visuals. And so keep in mind, we're looking at this church, and the narrative is expecting us to believe that this is only 90 years old, this building. And you have that sort of spectacular. You have also these little nubs that we see in a lot of old world buildings that were harnessing the tech that we suspect was a part of what was going on. A couple more of the building. Here's supposedly it being constructed. I wonder, was there a reconstruction going on too? I mean, you always get the tower too with the scaffolding and kind of whatever. If they can do this to the sky, I'm sure they can do this to the tower too. So believe it if you want. I don't care. This close by the theological seminary. There's the church tower in the background. Look at the similarity here as well. This predating, even with the historical narrative, official narrative, this is older than the church. And we'll get into the buildings there, and those buildings all sort of a part of Columbia University. Some old shots here. Grant's tomb was quite a spectacle as well. So here we have the seminary, Union Seminary, Theological Seminary, and check out. There's definitely an age aspect to this building as well. So we're going to check a little bit more of the buildings in Columbia University now. Most of these buildings are in the surrounding area of the church, and definitely worth taking a look at. So we have start with a postcard. We have interior here to the College Bancroft Hall. I'll have some exterior for as well, but even just look at the marble, the stonework, and the detail in the ceiling. If you can see that, it's a little hard in all the white. I suspect this is whitewashed. My guess is there was probably other colors going on up here. They probably paint over a lot of old paintings and things like that in these buildings where it doesn't fit the narrative. There's a good view of the ceiling in this building. So spectacular work, right? And here's that building in real life outside of the postcard. So you got a sense of the age here. What I'm going to do actually is just going to switch over to Cambridge in England. And I'm just bringing you a couple shots of Trinity College here in Cambridge in the UK. And this, according to our historical narrative over 400 years old. Okay. I'm going to switch back now. Let's take a look here. And here. So a lot of similarities. And of course our minds are willing to accept that these buildings are 400 years old because that's what they tell us. But we're to believe that all the ones that exist in the so-called New World, which is actually also part of the Old World, I am suggesting, are much older than we are told. And we have been given a false historical narrative to distort the timeline, divide us, yada yada yada. And that's just me, of course, and the conclusions I come to. And you be the judge. I mean, is this all just reproduction work? Or are we just copycatting that old world stuff? Who were the people that actually made this stuff? Who were the builders? Not the architects, the builders. Of course, they put a date on the front for us, and then that solves all issues. I wanted to show this one too, how the steps, the slope of the street and the steps, I think that's an awkward step right there. That's an after the fact. You don't build like that. And we are still exploring Columbia University and the outlying buildings. And I'm not even going to get to some of the most spectacular buildings that can be found at Columbia. If you're in the area and you're into this kind of stuff, wow, that's definitely worth a boots on the ground tour. I wish I was there. This is the interior of the Theological Seminary. So you have this rosette design again. You see it all over, especially in older European style buildings. This is the exterior. So if you don't think there's aging and weathering going on, take a look. Right. Having a real old feel to me. Really, really old. Here's the interior again. Not a great picture, but you get the idea. And then you have that, again, that vanilla sky in the background. So scrub. In this photo, we're only going to be featuring the Theological Seminary. Scrub it all out. And I wanted to expand my my search of the area to the Riverside Park nearby, where we find Grant's tomb, a monument to Ulysses S. Grant. And we also have a soldier's memorial in that Riverside Park. So some of these photos will be a part of the park, and some will be of the tomb itself. This will be looking up from below into the dome of that tomb. And this having been supposedly erected in late 1800s, I believe. There it is right there. No biggie. There's Grant. So I'm starting to think, as I do more research into this, that a lot of these great names from our history and these pioneers are really just placeholders. And is it all just a big story for us for right now? Is the whole purpose of our education and the history that they've implanted on us to control the way we perceive the world? I think there's a good chance. So here's the Morningside Park retaining wall. I found that interesting. Got some serious megalithic style block work. Got some stone down here. Very interesting. There's the rock wall with the curve. Modern day memorial. This is quite ornate. Quite ornate, to be sure. Beautiful. And you have the steelwork of the elevated trains, and of course the whole train phenomenon, a part of the old world narrative as well, where they've distorted timelines and technological capabilities and all these things. Even the stone wall here, right? It doesn't make sense. You're going to have to scrub the memory of a population in order to sell the pile of dung that we're being sold. And that's exactly what they've done. But we're waking up. And we're starting to say, nope, I'm not buying it. I know you're selling it like a snake oil salesman, right? We know where that comes from, don't we? Snake oil salesman, same family responsible for building the church. Okay, I'm going to segue a little bit into my last little bonus section where we get into this mansion right here on the Riverside. So this is the mansion of Charles M. Schwab. Let's take a look at him. And we're just going to take a quick look. Here he is, American steel magnate, Bethlehem Steel. And then go through his story. You can also check a little bit more about him. You have the usual suspects coming up. Gets into this whole sports narrative actually as well, which I find interesting. Shipbuilding also a big part of who he was. Anyway, I digress. Let's get back to the pictures. So I was scrolling around and I came across this photo and I just could not look elsewhere. And this is why I'm bringing you a little bit of the Schwab mansion. If you look down here at this is what actually caught my attention, the way all this stonework goes and sort of the underlying areas. Right, the lower levels, the upper levels, this is actually street level here. Okay, and then the interior. I'm hoping you can see that. This is, I have a better one actually. Let's keep going. Here we go. This is a photo of the interior staircase there. Just have a look at what's going on here. And we're to believe that a gentleman who made a whole bunch of money accidentally in the whole steel thing. Okay, not accidentally, maybe that's not fair, but cultured himself and then decided to build something like this. It's just, this was there. They couldn't build this at the time, according to the lies they have told us about history. It's not possible. I'm coming out right now and saying it's not possible, according to the historical narrative we're given, to build this at that period of time. It's pretty much not possible for us to do this now. So, look at the fireplace here. We have these guys. Of course, why wouldn't you have these two statue type things in your fireplace? Right? Burn them if you have to. You got money to burn, right? You're a steel baron. Not a great photo, but I think you get the idea. I hope you get the idea. There's a balcony. Look at that, eh? Look at that. And very sparse too, the evidence of these. This was obviously torn down. There's our pipe organ, of course, because you can't build a mansion without a pipe organ. And stained glass. You gotta have stained glass as well. And a quick look at the house itself. 75-room mansion. What do we have here? Oh, classic white elephant. Just a hideous white elephant. They're all like that. They're somebody's folly or they're a white elephant. Big mistake. Why wouldn't you tear it down? Right. Modest architect, modest reputation with no background. Okay, right in line with the whole Vanderbilt scene. Again, I think these are just placeholders, inheritors. I've used that term before. We get down to it here. Eventually, they tried to make it into. Schwab died penniless because of the crash of '29, and then they tried to make it into the mayor's residence, but LaGuardia refused that, saying it was too lavish. So by 1947, the house was empty. 48, it was replaced by a large red brick apartment complex. Then they called it the Schwab House. Isn't that cute? So now if you mention the Schwab House and somebody who lives in that area say, oh yeah, Schwab House, the apartment complex, yeah, my cousin lives there. It's like, no, this is the Schwab House. This is what we're talking about. There's the fireplace. There it is. Just a beauty. Again, you see the two statues there, so some people have sort of mused on, again, what these were actually used for. Or is this really for burning chunks of wood or coal? Oh, this is a construction photo. Right. So you see the typical construction techniques that you have. all these cranes and things like that. These looking drawn in, the way all this is sort of gridded together doesn't look right to me. You don't build like that in stages. Like here, you're putting a roof on, but you don't have the walls on below. It's not how you build. If anyone out there has built before, if you haven't really built anything, and you're willing to accept this, then I don't know what to say. I'd suggest you have a seat and try to understand the how these things go together. This doesn't make any sense, right? So I think we're looking at fabrications. I really do. I'm trying to sell us on a narrative. Here's the teardown. Right, they probably had a heck of a time trying to tear it down too. Right. What a shame. Can you imagine? This guy, what is he thinking? It's like, what are they tearing that down for? Or did he just read the newspaper and is he happy about it? I featured this. This is from the Astor House. I don't know how this got in there, but I'm going to feature it anyway because it's ridiculous. All from that same time period, right? The Gilded Age. Alright, so back to Riverside. Here we are. We started out at the church and we kind of explored the surrounding area. If you live in the area, get out there, check it out, see what's left. Do some boots on the ground. There's a cover up here going on, I'd say. They're skewing things. And then they're providing the books for our education system so we don't believe what our eyes are telling us. But we believe what our eyes are telling us, don't we? We have questions. We're raising our hand and we're asking why. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching.